Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Biggleswade Town Council meeting this evening. Usual formalities. Following is a reminder to meeting attendees that this is a formal meeting. I can advise that members of the public will be given an opportunity to speak during the public open session, but not at other times. The meeting is being filmed, or by being present, attendees are deemed to have agreed to be filmed and to use those images and sound recordings. I can advise that attendees should not disclose any personal information of individuals, as this would infringe the data protection rights of that individual. And as usual, please can I ask you to mute your microphones when not speaking, or if you're online, keep your camera off until you're speaking, please. Thank you very much. First item on the agenda then is apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Gilcher, Councillor Russell and Councillor Sajid. I think everyone else is here, so the next item is declarations of interest. Any items that members want to declare in relation to pecuniary, non-pecuniary items, please? Councillor Strawn.
The non-pecuniary 9F.
9F. Okay, thank you very much. Anyone else? No. Okay. In which case, move on. I've got no announcements, so we'll move straight on to public open session. Any members of the public wishing to speak? I have Councillor Fage over there wishing to speak.
Thank you. Just quickly, item 9H. This is a street trading application, and it is in my ward, but all councillors don't get consulted on street trading applications, which seems fair. But I've got a few problems with this. Firstly, it looks like the location, as best as I can tell, is on a roundabout, which I don't think is very appropriate. There are also some questions over the quality of the application, questions over which road it is actually on. So if there's one thing I've sort of found over the years from street trading applications, if it's not good enough, I think you should object to it. Town council is a very important consultee, so I'd hope that you can object to it, but I'm sure you've got the information you need to draw that conclusion, hopefully. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else, Funda? No? No? Okay. So we'll move on to the next item then. We've got no invited speaker, so item 6, members' questions, please. Councillor Jones.
I have two.
Two, excellent.
Two. My first one, I have had a query from a member of the public. They went for a walk down to have a look at our new bridge. Lindsell's Crossing, and as they walk down, the pathway is obviously not yet open by the horse paddocks, so they're walking along the railway line, and the pathway has been left with plastic everywhere coming out of the ground, almost like hooks. It's a major trip hazard going down. It's not an ideal walkway at the moment. I know if you've got small kids and a train goes past, that's going to be quite a fright for little ones going down that way. But it is very, very dangerous. And she sent me some pictures, which I'll happily share. Is there anything we can do as a town council to raise the query with the powers that be on that for them?
I'm certain there is, in terms of certainly contacting the relevant officers, but also writing to Central Bears. I think we'll pick that up and take the relevant action.
Amazing, thank you. And then the other one is about the sad news, the breaking news about Biggleswade Carnival Parade being cancelled, which has just been announced. So I was wondering if it was possible for the Town Centre Management Committee to consider any activities to support the local fundraising that's going to be lost as a result, potentially that weekend, just to have an exploration. And I suppose just on record, a huge thank you to everybody for everything they've done. And it's sad that it's happened, but we are where we are. Yeah,
I think it is unfortunate. And I think there's a few faces found and not seen that news, but it's yeah, really, really sad this particular year that it's not able to be carried on. So yeah, I think it's absolutely right that we can look at options around how we can support that. Whether TCM is the right forum, but certainly I think we should be looking at something.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Patel.
Just in relation to the carnival, yeah, although it has been cancelled, there'll be more focus on the annual duck race. So we're trying to make that bigger this year instead.
Okay, lovely. Any other members' questions then? No. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move then on to minutes of meeting. So we are on page 7. Firstly, for accuracy. Happy. Page 8 for accuracy. page 9, page 10. Councillor Barrett.
On page 10, item D, the first sentence says the applicants have been unable to provide a swept plan. Should that not be a swept path plan?
I'll take your word for it on that one. So
swept plan is the phrase.
Yeah. So we can amend that. No problem.
Thank you.
Anything else? Nope. Okay. And then page 11 for accuracy. Okay, so subject to that minor change, happy for me to sign those off. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on then to matters arising on the same minutes then. So again, we're on page 7, matters arising. Page 8, Councillor Knight.
Thank you. Item 8, a matter arising on a matter arising. I wondered, do we have any further conversations with Central Beds in relation to the failure to consult with Town Council on Jerk Hub?
Excuse me, nothing has been received so far. I'll keep persisting.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. So it's a matter arising, so it will be on then the matters arising next time. Thank you. Page 9, page 10, and page 11. So, okay, thank you very much. Move on to the next item then, which is the grants policy update. For members to receive and consider a written report in relation to the grants policy.
Thank you, Chair. This paper follows on from the conversation at Council connected to the precept. It's a couple of minor changes in regard to policy, but what it does do, it enables us to pay the second tranche within the relevant financial year rather than moving it into the following year. And it's consistent also with what happened at finance and general purposes. Thank you.
Councillor Strong.
I'll move the recommendation.
Councillor Alba.
Yeah, I think there might be a slight sort of typo, if you like, in this. So under B, on page 13, it's saying that one sentence will be sort of replaced by another one, but the first sentence is, I believe, something different. I think that should be April grants are paid to the successful applicants, rather than what it says there. I just want to confirm that we're replacing the right sentence with a
Right. Okay. I've missed that one. So we're happy that we are replacing the right sentence. Yeah. Well, we'll check on it. Councillor Jones.
Unless I've got this really wrong, which is very possible. The two cycles don't seem equal in length to me the way they've been proposed. So the first cycle is June to August for applications, and then consideration in September, and they're informed and paid in October. So why could we not do the second cycle going November to January, consider in February, and informed and paid in March, so they match, and then they're equal? Then there's complete transparency, there's no chaos, and it can be completely clear. What would be wrong with that?
I think what happened is this was the agreement. This is the proposal that was put forward. So
okay. So could I propose that we change the proposal?
If members are minded to make a change to it, we need to understand the reasons why we're changing it. I think my understanding of the reason for the change was to by having it in January, then we've got the precept in January, so that an impact on so it was to do with some workload in January. So by pushing it back to later on, it would have. Councillor Strong, you perhaps can explain it a bit more.
Yes, it was basically with the work cycle of the staff, particularly with the annual precept, to have for considering the grant applications in January would, I think, be unreasonably onerous on the staff who are trying to get the precept through. So the idea was to move that back, but equally we want to make sure that we bring it so that the two payments made in the one financial year. At the moment, there's a carryover each year. So we're just trying to, A, it's going to speed up the payments to applicants, but B, it's a practical side in terms of management of the resources we have in the staffing element so that we get a better result.
Go ahead, Councillor Jones.
Thank you. So if the consultation ended the end of January, that wouldn't put any pressure on staff in January. It's just a matter of them coming in because the closing date would be the 31st of January for consideration in February. Would that alleviate that concern?
I guess it could do. We'll come up to that in a second.
Okay.
Councillor Barrett.
I think what we said was, and I think it's actually in the grants policy on the second page at the bottom, I think we said the cycle is proposed initially for the next financial year for us to trial it and see if it works in that way, and then we would reconsider it going forward. So I think that would be the time to consider the alternative solution, because I think we've been through this a number of times.
That would be my view as well, but I think if there's other members' thoughts on it, I'm happy to take a proposal, Councillor Jones, if you want to make that proposal. That's something different to what we have here, and then we'll take a vote on it. Alternatively, we carry on as we are. But Councillor Agnew.
I just wanted to ask whether the officers already aware of many or however many applications coming through? Yes,
We've received 6 today.
thank you. Thank you.
Councillor North.
Just to mention, we do have a proposal, which has not yet been seconded. I'm happy to second it. Thank you. So we do have something to vote on already.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Hold on a second. So we have a proposal. It's been seconded. I'm conscious of Councillor Jones's comments, but I'm going to take it to the vote and then see where we go with it. Okay. So all those in favour, please show. Against? I lost count. Completion. All those in favour, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All those against, please show. 1, 2, 3, 4. Abstentions. So on that basis, the vote is carried. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Shall we move on to the next one? Next one is update to financial regulations. Go ahead.
Okay. So this is not a major change to our financial regulations at all. That was, if I recall, that was just done in December of 2023. The last time that something came to this, there were 2 recommendations. Number 1 was to extend those people who were able to use the council's credit card, which went through, and that's holding in abeyance until further appointments are made. And secondly, to make minor adaptations to the financial regulations. There was no need for a fundamental review. Again, I seem to remember briefing this with speaking to the chair of F&GP associated with this. So this is minor tweaking, no fundamental changes.
Okay, Councillor Barrett.
Thank you. Just want to highlight an item that I think we've mentioned before on page 6 of the regulations at 4.1, second paragraph. It says the town clerk in conjunction with the chair. It's from £15 to 30,000. So I think that should be 15,000 to 30,000.
Yes.
And I think we've mentioned that before at one of these meetings. So I just want to make sure that the document we have is the latest version.
Can you clarify that it is?
I believe it to be the latest version, yes.
So we will make sure that that amendment happens on this occasion. Councillor Strong?
I think in that respect, there's a proposal with the changes, but I think that in addition to that, that point should be noted that in that particular paragraph on page 6, 4.1, the second subpart, that it should be £15,000 to £30,000. That be in addition to the proposal that's set out. Otherwise, the proposal that's set out appears to be appropriate. So with that amendment, I'd move it on that basis.
Anyone seconding, please? Councillor Agnew. Any other comments, please? Okay, so all those in favour then please show. That is unanimous. Well done, thank you. Moving on to the next item, which is Jubilee Recreation Ground and Tiny Forest Project. Introducing. Okay, Mr. Saini.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So when the PLOS reports were written for tonight's meeting, we unfortunately didn't have to the minutes as such to hand on hand. So I think it might be helpful if I can actually read out as we get to each report the resolution which is in minutes now for PLOS and draft minutes, I should say, just to provide as an aid memoir to the discussion. And everyone has a copy anyway to hand for this. So on specifically this report, at the PLOS committee on 30th of January, members resolved to note the report, to agree to progress with decision points 1, which states for the public realm team to remove the palisade fence and investigate a connecting path, and agree decision point 2 that Earthwatch Europe is invited to deliver the Tiny Forest project. With regards to updates, since we've written the report, we've been in touch with our legal advisors as recently as yesterday and are still awaiting their advice on the draft agreement. And that's, I've been told, imminent. One other thing I should say, I was on in discussion with certain members. I understand some members have an item, another sort of option, if you like, to bring to the discussion tonight to be tabled as well, potentially, in terms of the Tiny Forest location where the work should be done on Jubilee Recreation again.
Okay.
Thanks.
Anything else? No? Okay. Comments, members, then, please. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I think overall the proposal, the concept is a good one, and I think opening the palisade fence and planting some trees sounds fantastic. Unfortunately, I missed the last PLOS meeting, but there are a couple of issues I've raised previously, and I'm not sure if those were considered. So if I could just outline my 3 concerns, and I think maybe all 3 could be fixed. So the first is, I think it's really important that we consult with the residents, because they're retirement bungalows along Sandy View that look directly over that play area. And if I lived there, I think I would want to have the opportunity maybe to be invited to a meeting or invited to a conversation or something to express my views, because opening up that fence could change the character of the area. It could create a lot more traffic. There are potential crime considerations. And I live very close, 1 or 2 minutes walk away, but I don't feel we should make a decision around that quiet sort of retirement area without consulting directly with the people that overlook it. My second concern is that to the north of the field, which is where it's proposed to have the little mini wood, that's the flattest part of that play area. The play area is on the site of a historic landfill site, I understand. And to the south, the ground is quite undulating. There used to be play equipment. I believe that was removed because it was unstable, the ground. So to the north, where it's proposed to put the path and the mini wood, that's an area where people quite often play ball games. So quite often you'll see young families, kids, nothing formal, but it's the only area for some distance where you can go with a football and have a bit of a kickabout. So it feels to me that putting the path right in the middle of that area may not be the best option, and it may be worth considering extending the path more to the east, where it already runs directly in front of the properties, just a few more feet. Now, I know that means it doesn't line up with the new developer's path. Perhaps that could be solved, but I'm reluctant to take the one area of that field where you could have a ball game and stick a path right through the middle of it with a gap in the fence. So I think considering other possible locations for the gap and the joining path is probably important. And then finally, planting trees sounds wonderful, but would it make more sense to plant those towards the south? Again, in that area where the land is undulating, it can't really be used for anything else. If it's suitable, could the trees be to the south, leaving the flattest part of the play area for ball games, as I suggest? So those are my sort of 3 concerns, which I'd be happy to turn into a proposal amending the sort of recommendation if there's support in the room.
Okay, Councillor North.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, firstly, I would like to point out that point 1, That's not really, only, not really a question. The issue with forests, with tiny forests. Any move. Time running out. The one thing I'm going to point about, and it's point about value consultation of green forests there. Is and I agree with, if goes an outline and make a proposal to move the location to the other end of the further pathway, because that's a separate issue. Key thing is getting forest. Then that's not that's not move the location of the forest around the field and find that. But I said it's on making both of their steps. Two, which is what the council.
Okay, so that's a proposal. Before I go to any further, any comments? I've got Councillor Alban as well, and then perhaps you can come back.
Yeah, regarding the location of the forest, Councillor Knight suggested it might be better on the old waste tip. Now that, and he did say that it may or may not be suitable. I would suggest it, there would be severe doubts whether that would be suitable for planting the forest on, just because of the history of the place. I'm not an arboriculturalist, but I suspect there might be issues there. So that would, if we wanted to move it there, that would slow down the process quite a bit, I would have thought.
Okay, any other comments? Councillor Barrett?
My comments aren't to do with the locations, and I take advice from others about that. Mine's more to do with the contract. I've got a few comments to make.
Go ahead.
Can I make them now?
Yep.
Or
well, go ahead with that now, and then we'll think Mr. Soni can pick up on the other comments.
Okay, so on page 4 of the contract that we've been presented, where it has a project team as one of the headings, it has a named individual in the paragraph. Normally you'd put the role of the person, just in case that person isn't around for any length of time. The second comment I've got is on page 49. 12.2. We have to keep insurances for 6 years, but this is a 10-year project. I'm not quite sure why we've chosen 6 years over 10. It may just because that's a standard in these contracts. It's a possibility. The second point in that section also is the amount of the insurances, the liability insurances, and property owners of 5 million on each for this type of project just seems a little bit high. Take advice on that. And I think I had one more comment. Bear with me. It is in schedule. Schedule 7, which is on page 27. The parties agree ownership of the trees and forest furniture. Owners shall pass to the landowner on the date of installation. These are trees. I think we should have a bedding in period, no pun intended, that we shouldn't take them on straight away. There should be a period of time before we are actually owning those because of the maintenance elements that we're obligated to earlier on. And that was it at that point.
Okay. I think what I'm going to cut on with regards to the agreement, let's do those bits first, and then we'll then talk about the other bits afterwards. Yep.
Sure.
So could I just make a point about the agreement? If we recall, when we discussed this at PLOS, the contract has been referred to a specialist solicitor at Wells Headley. We'll be going through that clause by clause to determine whether or not what we've got in front of us represents a good contract. and we'll highlight key issues. And I think Councillor Barrett's already highlighted some things that are that need to be remedied before the council were to move forward. So that we await that legal advice about whether or not we're in a safe place to move forward. I'm also very thoughtful that on paper, and as Councillor Knight said, this feels like a very good thing and we should try to support it as best we can. At the same time, though, we are being encouraged to move at quite a pace here, quite an uncomfortable pace. And we have pushed back against that, even though there's lots of goodwill associated with this. I think it might be helpful, Karim, for members to be fully aware of the time constraints that we have connected to the planting process just before they make a determination.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's true to say that we're now already well into the procurement cycle for the project, which is less than ideal from their perspective. They've essentially, although this is, I think I said it PLOS before, at the PLOS committee, this is a project that emerged on the 8th of December, just from nowhere essentially, and kind of, via an email. And then we progressed this with them via 2 site visits with the public realm manager and myself, looking at the agreement with the project lead. They've agreed to obviously go with the council with the democratic process and our discussions. They do need a decision though, essentially this evening for this project in order to be able to procure the items, obviously subject to legal advice and your own considerations, to then be able to sign the agreement first and then go ahead with it. Yeah, I mean, I'll pause there, but I can come back on the other options.
Okay, but before we go there, so there were questions around the location. Is that something that is not set in stone, but what are the options there? Because if we make a proposal, is that something that is realistic and could be changed?
Thanks. So yes, no, I mean, from our perspective, we're certainly happy to go back to the project manager and say, look, you visited the whole site. Mm-hmm. The discussion has taken place in whichever way it goes in terms of specific location. There, we will put that through to the project team and see what they tell us. They will tell us though that they will need to conduct what are they called, test pits or something. They're going to have to dig anyway some areas, so we'll just ask them to dig a few more holes essentially, potentially in 2 locations, and see which one comes up as less risky as such. Okay, I had Councillor Knight and then Councillor Strawn.
Thank you. I think it is a good proposal. I worry a bit that we're being steamrolled here. If this only came to PLOS on the 30th, I don't know what other sites have been considered. Here we are 2 weeks later, basically being told we've got a deadline to make a quick decision. And these trees that could be there for 100 years. I think we should do it right. So I support the principle. I suppose my amendment would be along the lines of that officers work with the tree people, remind me of their name. Earthwatch, that's right, I can't call them the tree people. That has completely the wrong connotations. Earthwatch to identify whether the site to the south would be viable, to defer a decision on exactly where the fence is opened up until we know exactly where the trees are going to go, because I think that's kind of important. And also in parallel, maybe to at least write to the residents in the area and saying, we're going to do this, we're consulting on the exact location, and we'd like you to be have the opportunity to comment on those plans. And I think there's no debate that we're going to put some trees there. What is a debate is exactly where they go. Okay.
Any comments? Councillor Barrett.
Just one comment that picked up on an earlier point, that in, again, the contract, the site access to the site of 7.7 on page 7, it says that if Earthwatch discover the ground condition of the site is likely to require treatment, then effectively we're liable, we've got to pay. So if we do move it to a site that isn't appropriate, we would have to pay. So we have to be very careful about moving locations and very clear about the advice.
I think we're also saying though that the onus is on them to do the testing on the site, and if their testing does prove that it's not viable, not suitable, then any agreement that is in place will be null and void anyway. So, but I take your point. So, Councillor Strawn.
Yes, just on the legal aspects, I'm concerned that the obligations being placed potentially on the council, particularly reading clause 7.2 of the agreement. I think I know what it's trying to say, but you could read it in more ways than one, which is brilliant from a lawyer's perspective because you've got some good litigation coming out and a lot of costs, but not so good from our point of view if we have to argue the point, because it could be reached. It does potentially read that it says the site sits within the curtilage of a listed building, which is ludicrous. It's located within the green belt, a national park. I didn't know Biggleswade had a national park yet. The site of special scientific interest, possibly with the tip there, that could be quite interesting, or an area of outstanding natural beauty. And shall be responsible for obtaining and maintaining all consents necessary for the project under planning law and otherwise, and shall provide copies of those to Earthwatch. Now, that looks to me as though potentially it could be read as it's meant to be us. It does earlier say the site does not form, but I think that it's very badly worded in that respect. And I hope our lawyers will make sure that we are under no obligations there, because it's meant to be on the basis it's not costing the town anything other than providing the facility. But there are, I fear there are little snags in there, and we can't agree that the principle's brilliant, I think, but some of the details still need to be hammered out. And until we've got the legal agreement in place, we can't actually sign up to anything.
Okay, anyone else before we, I think I have a proposal from Councillor North in relation to the fence. So do I have a seconder for that proposal in terms of that it's, it's been, hold on a second. There was a resolution made by PLOS. I guess it's whether or not members feel that that resolution is appropriate given the nature of the sort of the update that we've had, or would it be appropriate not to necessarily ignore the resolution of PLOS, but to be minded to consider other options? What are your thoughts? I'm going to go on a second. I'm going to Councillor Skilton.
This is just really in relation to the removal of the fence. Regardless if we put these trees in or not, it'd be a really good idea to take that palisade fence down and get some connectivity with the new estate and that playing field, if it remains as such, and obviously Potham Road and things like that. It's quite a barrier for walking routes between the new estate and Potham Road. Okay,
so we have a proposal then in relation to the fence being removed. A 2 point. We had a resolution. Hold on a second. We had a resolution of the PLOS committee. If members are content that this resolution stays in place, then we'll ignore that in terms of this meeting. Councillor Knight has a comment. I'm going to just take that.
This is kind of ambiguous. So the report we have tonight, summary to remove the fence, later down to remove 2.5 metres. The resolution says agree to progress with decision point 1, which states for public realm team to remove the fence.
It's a section of the fence.
That's not what it says. That's not what the resolution. I don't think we can have this level of ambiguity. I think we need to be very specific in the resolution exactly what we want to happen. The resolution that PLOS passed, if these minutes are approved, says remove the fence.
Well, that has been passed by PLOS.
Well, I don't support that.
It's not open to question here.
So it says remove the fence.
Let's talk about the location.
Right, hang on a second. Right, so I'm going to make an assessment on this, Councillor North. So I'm going to put it over to the council to make a decision on whether it wishes to go ahead. I appreciate the fact that PLOS has made a resolution. However, in this particular circumstance, I'm going to make a decision that it does come to the council makes a decision whether it does it at this point. Given the nature of the conversation we're having here in relation to the potential location of the forest or other, how urgent is it that we actually move the fence? If we're putting a forest in a different location, it makes no sense to decide where the fence is going to go. So, in my view, however, let's take it to a vote. So, so the proposal is that. Are you happy for it to be a proposal, Councillor?
Well, no, I'm not. I think it's completely out of order.
Okay, fine. Well, I'm going to make a. Go on, Councillor Abman, then let's see.
Can we hear from the town clerk on what the process might be in these circumstances? Because a resolution is a resolution, and the powers are delegated to committees.
Is it though? Is it actually?
That's what I'd like to know.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, so obviously PLOS can make a resolution, but there were other components associated with this, not least the contract, and it's a contentious issue. So council trumps the other committees. Council is the predominant decision-making body of the council. So yes, it can.
But to be clear though, if I think what we're trying to establish is whether if does PLOS have can it make a resolution that then council doesn't agree with, and it can't, in my view, which is why I think there's some uncertainty here, which is why I think it's appropriate that we take it to the vote. And it may well be that the council does say, Councillor North, that we go ahead with it, but I think it's appropriate under these circumstances that we take it to a vote. But I'm happy to take opinions. Go on, Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, I think PLOS can only make a recommendation to the council. There are certain decision-making powers.
Yeah,
We're making a recommendation about the forest. We made a decision about the fence. I think we need to protect the powers.
Okay, thank you. Right, Councillor Strawn.
So the second point.
Hold on a second. Go on, Colin. Go on, Councillor Thomas.
So the second point was that we've been looking at this fence for about 4.5 years. I can't see how it's a rush now. I can't see, it doesn't have to be tied to all the decisions, so that it would be make more sense to me to just park it, decide how much of the fence we're going to remove, and then try and solve the other problems we've got. Break it down into something we can manage rather than try and resolve everything at once. It's not going to happen.
Okay. Councillor Strawn.
Thank you. There are effectively two parts to the resolution. One is relating to the path and the other is to the Earthwatch. I recollect from the PLOS meeting that as far as the Earthwatch part, we were aware of the legal agreement, and we were conscious that it was going to be subject to that legal agreement being satisfactory. So I think that in that respect, it may be the minutes of the PLOS meeting weren't quite accurate in terms that there should be, it was going to be subject to the legal agreement. And I think there's been sufficient points raised tonight that we have concerns about. We can't just agree to enter into it without, when the legal agreement hasn't been entered into it. So it's irrelevant in that respect, I believe, that PLOS made a decision because it was going to be subject to the legal agreement being appropriate. So it's agreed in principle, but it's going to be subject to the legal agreement, which would then cover lots of the other issues about siting, etc. As far as the fence and the footpath is concerned, again, I can't remember whether it was actually a resolution or a recommendation that was put to the meeting, but it would seem, I don't see that there could be any great detriment with agreeing with the principle of what PLOS was saying, but subject to reviewing the position of the footpath in the future, so that it wouldn't necessarily be where we were looking at it last time. Okay, we still had so effectively we've got a choice here. So my view is that it should be council's decision, but Councillor North is adamant that it's a PLOS made a resolution. I'm seeking advice from the clerk whether or not a resolution of the PLOS committee is binding in that respect, or whether or not if council then decides that it's appropriate to make a different decision, where do we stand?
In my view, it's the latter. I think full council is the predominant point of reference, and it can alter that initial decision or resolution or recommendation. This is the predominant decision-making body of the council.
Thank you. Councillor Barrett.
Can I just add to that comment that the recommendation in the paper, if everyone has the opportunity to read it now, regardless of decision points 1 and 2, it says that members note this report, yes, but it also says agree to progress with decision points 1 and 2. It says members to agree with decision points 1 and 2 and enable officers to continue. So it could be that we don't agree with those decision points because that's a recommendation that we've been given to address. So I would suggest that we're not agreeing to those decision points because of the conversations we've just had.
Thank you. So go ahead, Councillor North, and we'll conclude this.
I don't quite really see the point of having delegated powers in committees, which were given for the sake of streamlining the work of the council. Committees were given delegated powers. What's the point of that if they are going to be second-guessed and overturned by the council? There's no point. You may as well have everything comes to council. Forget about committees altogether.
Okay, thanks. Your point's noted. Given those circumstances, I'm now looking for a proposal because Councillor North, yours wasn't a proposal as such because you're insisting it's a resolution. Do I have a proposal in relation to both matters, please? Or can we break them down into two separate items, please? Councillor Knight.
In relation to the trees, I would like to propose that officers continue negotiations on the exact location of the trees and the contract, and have authority to proceed with that as required.
So, do I have a seconder for that proposal? Councillor Skilton, go on. You have a seconder. All those in any other comments, please? Councillor Strawn.
Does that include the principle of we're inviting, subject to that we would invite Earthwatch to deliver the project as is suggested, subject to the legal agreement?
Yes.
I've just thought, and also is that subject to consulting the neighbours there? No. Okay.
Okay. So I have a proposer and a seconder. All those in favour of that element, please show. Those against and abstentions. Okay, so that is carried. Councillor Knight, second.
Can I make a second proposal? So upon the successful conclusion of the negotiations and agreement with Earthwatch and the final location of the trees, can we draw up new proposals for exactly where the path and the gap in the fence would go, and then consult with the local residents on that and bring that back to council or PLOS to get approval once that process has been completed?
Do I have a second of that proposal? Number of seconders. Any comments, please? Councillor Skilton.
I actually do tend to agree with Councillor North that a decision was taken at a committee and that shouldn't be overturned by council. But I do think that we should take the fence down irrespective of the tiny forest. So can the amendment be that we look to take the fence down at an appropriate place irrespective of the tiny forest?
So there's an amendment to Councillor Knight's proposal. Is anyone happy to second the amendment?
If I could comment.
Go on, Councillor.
So my concern is that we need to know where the forest is going before we can decide the path. So I don't think we can proceed with the path until the forest is decided. So I would reject that amendment.
Okay. You can reject the amendment. Getting myself tied up here, right? Thanks. This discussion was never going to be straight. Councillor Jones.
I'm sorry to extend it.
Carry on.
Just based on what Councillor Thomas said earlier, can I ask the reason why the fence hasn't come down in a 4-year debate? Sorry, I am sorry. I'm so sorry.
Councillor Jones, if you don't mind, let's not go there on that one. There's been a number of delays to it.
Well, it's just because I'm trying to understand so that I can vote accordingly.
I understand. It's been a fairly lengthy process. The report does detail that it's taken quite a while to get to this point. We're establishing the ownership of the fence, ownership of the land, the position of the fence in relation to the land, and at such a time, it's
that's
quite
fine.
timely.
So it's not for a reason other than it's just lands and titles and things like that, rather than it's stopping anything.
No, it's not to do with that. It's to do with there have been delays that are perhaps unfortunate.
Okay, thank you.
We say. Now I've now completely lost where I was. So we've thanks very much. So we've got a proposal which was seconded. Then there was an amendment to the proposal in relation to. Just remind me what that was in relation to. I've forgotten now.
That was to put in a path irrespective of the tiny forest. To take the fence down irrespective of it. I don't actually believe it needs a path, but
okay. So that's an amendment. So Councillor Knight is not supporting that amendment. However, that we can vote on the amendment whether Councillor Knight wishes to support that amendment or not. And
so if that proposal, if that amendment passed, I would withdraw my original proposal.
I think you probably could. There we go. Oh gosh.
Can anyone? Does anyone want to second my proposed? Should we have done the amendment before I seconded it?
Right. Go. Just give me a second. So got a proposal that's been seconded, and then the seconder wants to make an amendment to the proposal, which the proposer is not supporting. So you're not seconding them. You can't second them, the proposal if with it. Someone help me out. I've had a bad enough headache at the start of this meeting, let alone now. So go on, Councillor Skilton.
So when I propose an amendment, doesn't the council have an opportunity to second and vote on that?
Vote on the amendment.
Okay, so does anyone want to second my amendment to take down the fence irrespective of the tiny forest?
Thank you. So Councillor North does want to second that. Anyone, Councillor Knight, go on.
I'm not going to make a thing of it tonight. I thought in the past, and I'd have to check the standing orders, that if someone who made a proposal didn't accept a recommendation, an amendment, the amendment was rejected.
No.
Okay. And then I could be wrong.
So there's a amendment has been proposed and seconded. Could I have a vote on the amendment to actually take the fence down, irrespective of anything we do around the forest or anything else? All those in favour of the amendment, please. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wanting to take the fence down, irrespective. So hang on. I think that, to be honest, that sums up the meeting, doesn't it? So taking down the whole fence. So it doesn't refer to the whole fence. It's a 2.5 metre section, which I appreciate, Councillor Knight. It doesn't refer to in the report, but the intention is a 2.5 metre section of the fence. So the proposal was to take down the amendment to the 2.5 metre section of the fence, irrespective of the forest. That amendment has been carried. Thank you. Councillor Knight, we have so and then I need to take a vote on the substantive item. So all those in favour, please. Against? So it's been carried then.
Didn't that amendment effectively nullify my proposal? Because I said you had to consult, and you have now resolved to take a fence down without consultation. So, okay, I'll respect the decision, but.
You were talking about consulting on the forest, weren't you?
Okay. Just give me a second to compose myself before we move on to the next item. Yeah, I'm just give me a second. Right, Kitelands, thank you very much. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So on the Kitelands and Brunel project, so going with Kitelands first, the good news is that the equipment has now been delivered. It's sitting in our depot. It's been built by the installers at the depot. It's also one item was damaged in transit, which was spotted by the installers and therefore has been reordered by the manufacturer and is arriving in the next few weeks, actually. The other thing to say about Kitelands is the installers will be attending Kiteland site to start the installation either in the last week of February or the very first week of March, and then that work will take no more than 4 weeks. So it's making good progress on that project. And also we've invited the Tritax Symmetry along as well for a site visit as well as well as the new public rail manager to look at exactly what's going to be happening in the location and the installation work. Over on the Brunel side of things, do you want to carry on? Yep. Yep, thanks. So we've, in terms of updating this report as it was written, just yesterday we've received a positive communication from the Department for Levelling Up and Housing, saying that we have been successful in our application for PWLB funding for the Brunel project. This report notes that in the intervening period, because of the delay largely in terms of getting a determination on the application status, the price lists went up essentially due to indexation, and the installers were not able to honour the existing price list at the time, and therefore we will be coming back. Officers will be coming back to Town Council, I think, next with a report which will be outlining what the additional expenditure is likely to be, and potentially drawing down from our reserve for the balance, which will be a few £1,000s.
Okay, Peter.
Just very succinctly, as Karim says, this is a call on our capital reserve because the price inflation. So I think circumstances have changed in the intervening period. And also to say, obviously, the mayor has just signed some documentation which will enable us to draw down the sums in 2 weeks from now will be in our bank account. So thank you.
Okay, comments, please. Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you. Just great news, I think, on the Kitelands project. I think that's really positive, and I'm pleased that the construction work is happening relatively soon as well. It's probably a bit earlier than I thought. Might be slightly jumping the gun a little bit, but I hope that officers and colleagues can look at maybe having a kind of an opening community type event like we had with Franklin's last time, because it was really well received, making a bit of a sort of semi-gala or kind of, about it, and to draw people's attention to, the work and the new, the new equipment that will be up there as well. I'm happy to talk obviously offline about what that could look like, but I think that's a way of drawing people's attention to it. Obviously getting tri-taximetry involved as well and that kind of thing. So, but otherwise, I think really good work on Kitelands, and look forward to seeing it, built really.
Okay, any other comments, please? Councillor Thomas.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that it's going to be a couple of weeks this time as opposed to months, but I think that's down to the nature of the beast. I take it that we're not spending any of the money on anything else other than the equipment this time. We're not going to do anything because it's a nice broad area. It's nice and open. And it'll be more or less what as it is now, with a big enhancements with some of the equipment and the stuff that's getting a bit old should be replaced. So that's good.
Go on, Councillor North.
I think Colin is just being a bit too polite, and that what I think we are talking about is what was referred to as landscaping at Franklin's, which was basically digging up a lot of the grassed area and planting trees, which was subsequently damaged and destroyed by little children running all over them, which is a complete waste of time and money, and that we should not do something like that at Kitelands. Is that what you meant, Colin?
No. I'm sorry. The stuff at Franklin's was good, apart from one small strip where it has been trampled over. We took a chance on that and it didn't work. So I guess we can replant it with something else. It's not a big deal, or we can just regrass it. It's fine. Overall, I think it was a brilliant piece of work that came together. We did spend a lot of time on it. It has taken a lot of time with people from the public realm team, the outdoor people, doing a lot of work on it, which was superb. I would say that the small bit that didn't go right, fair enough. Sometimes nothing goes perfect.
Okay, so in terms of this item, you're talking about landscape. So we're essentially though we're not looking to do a huge amount of additional landscaping. We're looking to ensure that the equipment is primarily the focus. I think that's.
I was saying that's why it's quick
so
compared to the last one.
Good. Okay, so the recommendations that we note the report on the project, and that we officers provide a report in due course on revised costings. So I guess there's no real proposal as such required. If you're happy to note that and to carry on. I'm seeing nods, so should we move on? Thank you very much. So I think we're moving on to the linear wood. You have the report in front of you. You're introducing.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Not too much to add, other than, if you like, I'll read out the resolution from the PLOS minutes, which was for members resolved to note the report, express their extreme concern for the length of time it's taken for the heads of terms leases to come to from CBC to council. Members ask that senior officers and directors at CBC escalate this matter as a matter of extreme urgency, which is what we've done.
I guess at this point as well, it's to be clear, council has not made a resolution to go ahead with this. So we're looking to, at this point, have if we've got the agreement, we can then at least then, once we've seen some documentation, we're clear, we understand what we're looking at. That's at that point, council can make a formal resolution, but that's not happened so far. So I just wanted to assure any members in relation to it, not committed to anything. Go ahead, Peter.
Just a short statement to support what you've just said. So several months ago, and it was several months ago, because this has taken an inordinate amount of time, there was a condition survey done. That condition survey helped us in our negotiation with CBC to ensure that they put a number of matters that we highlighted right, so that actually, if council were determined to take on these two areas, they were in very good condition prior to making that determination. I think before anything is considered, and it's still taking a long time, that we would do a further condition service with CBC to ensure that we've now got something again which is in good fit purpose to take on, and then come back to council with any observations prior to any determination.
Okay. Any comments then, members, please? Councillor Strawn.
Just a question, noting the PLOS report, we ask that senior members and directors at CBC escalate this matter as a matter of extreme urgency. Has that occurred, please, and has anything happened at the CBC end?
Go ahead.
So simply put, yes and no. So we've done the escalation. We've had meetings with heads of facilities and others. We've been assured that we're going to be hearing something back, but we've been assured that for a very, very long time. So nothing's concrete's come back yet, alas.
Could we ask that this is on the next town council agenda to bring us up to date and let CBC know that we will be discussing it at the next town council meeting?
I guess we'll be discussing it, but again, we're not committing to anything at this stage. Okay, so the recommendation is that we note the report. Members happy? Broad agreement. Okay, we'll move on to the next item then. So just checking on where we are. So the Land North Access Agreement, I think we have. So this is the letter from Carter Jonas in relation to Hallam Land Management, Land North of Biggleswade application, their invitation to meet with us. Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So very pleased to receive the communication from Carter Jonas. So to my mind, we should absolutely meet with them, given they offered the opportunity to brief us. I think that should be a public meeting because members of the community should have the opportunity to attend. My fear is that it could be quite a long discussion. I don't know to what extent they're soliciting our feedback or to what extent this council wishes to provide feedback if it's a briefing. So I worry that an invited speaker slot could be too short. So maybe this is a matter for officers to consider, but maybe we either resolve to invite them to an invited speaker slot, or perhaps we consider an extraordinary council meeting on a spare Tuesday where we can devote sufficient time to this very important matter.
Comments? Anyone else? Councillor Thomas?
Yeah, considering the amount of time and effort we've spent on this already, previous to this letter, and the fact that it's been through CBC once, rejected, I think we should have a proper meeting.
Okay.
Of the council and Hallam. I think it is going to be a long meeting, and I think we should just let them say, we should let them say what they should think they're going to do, and we should consider it.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor North?
To say I agree with what Councillors Knight and Thomas have said, and we should have a meeting. It should be a public meeting, whether it's a invited speaker or a extraordinary council meeting. I don't know. We'll leave that to look for others. Maybe you can get some feedback from them about how long they think they need to provide their briefing.
So anyone else wish to speak or happy, Councillor Skilton?
Yeah, I just don't, does anyone have any idea what the alternative strategy is? So because when I first saw this, I'm quite cynical about this development, as I imagine many other members are, and it almost feels like if we engage with them, we're kind of, you know, sort of not endorsing it, but kind of engaging them. Obviously, if we don't engage, we lose our ability to comment on it. I think on balance, we definitely should engage with them. But yeah, it just, I was quite shocked to see it come back so quickly. And I know my neighbours that I've spoke to about this have, and I know a prominent campaigner on this issue has seen it as well and is not very happy.
Okay, Councillor Jones, and then we'll make a decision where we're going to go. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, if we invite them to come and talk to us, it might be helpful for them to share any documentation in advance to make the meeting go a bit smoother. And what we could do is collate questions potentially, rather than it becoming an elongated session. That might be a tidier approach to it.
Okay, so I'm sensing that we're asking officers to invite members of Carthagena's to actually attend a meeting, ideally a public meeting. Ideally, I'm sensing that we're thinking perhaps an invited speaker session isn't going to be long enough. So it's either a separate meeting, but let's see what they come back with. But the intention being that we can consult but public is more important rather than a sort of private briefing. Am I sensing that's what, Councillor Barrett?
Can I just be clear? Is it a public open meeting, or is it a town council meeting where the public are going to be allowed to attend? I just need to understand what it is we're actually proposing here.
Go on, Councillor Knight.
I think it should be the latter. I think it should be a council meeting that the public are invited to attend. I think we should follow standing orders. I don't think we should have private meetings with developers. I don't think that looks good. And the public should have the opportunity to come and listen to the discussion.
I just wanted to be clear. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, though. Okay, Councillor Jones, and then we're...
Sorry, my only other thought as you were summarising there was that it's done at a mutually convenient time rather than an inopportune time, which seems to have been the pattern over the last couple of years.
Well, let's leave it with officers then to consult with Carthagena's and see what they come back with, and then we can then come up with some agreement. Okay, happy with that broadly? Okay, good. All right, let's move on then. Thank you. Next one is the title of it is the pre-consult Big Green Wheel, Saxon Close, etc. Comments? So I should mention as well, there's an additional piece of paper, 2 pieces of paper that you've been given, and this relates to some amendments to the Plan 5, where in the original papers that you were given that were delivered, made reference to a bridge between points C and D. That bridge is now no longer part of the proposal, and essentially if you have the revised papers, now it goes from point A to point B and then to point C. So there's no element joining the let me see, the bridleway that is by the New Flowers estate. There's no link into, there's no bridge across into the section towards Manor Court. If that fairly garbled explanation there makes sense to everybody, essentially Plan 5 is amended to take out the bridge. And I think, to be honest, Plan F. So Plan 1 sort of links into that, but it's not. It's Plan 5 is the main sheet of explanation. So, any comments, please, Councillor Alban?
Yeah, a lot of this is tidying up.
It is.
Sorry.
Yes.
But I'd like particularly to welcome the new footpath that is being proposed on Plan 5, where the green wheel will link up behind the Stratton Park homes to the existing network. So that would be a great addition, I think, to the spokes, if you like, of the green wheel.
Sure, thank you. Any other comments? Generally, then people have, and as you say, Councillor Urban, it is basically a tidying up exercise for the most part. Some of the other footpaths are in place that don't seem to make any sense any longer, given they're on over roundabouts, etc. So I'm sensing that we're happy. So we've got no comments we need to take away then. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to the next item then. Where are we? Street trading application. We're on 9H. Comments, please. Councillor North.
As been pointed out to us already, there are flaws in this. That if you look at, well, question 6, they don't seem to know how to spell the roads and where they're going to be located. According to the map, it's going to be right on the roundabout. There is quite a lot of traffic down there. There's more and more trading industrial premises. And it just seems basically undesirable to me, and we should object to it, so I would suggest.
Okay. Councillor Knight, then Councillor Agnew.
Thank you. So I agree with Councillor North. So the proposed location, I think, is completely unsafe. The main grounds for an application being rejected are, I believe, on the grounds of safety. And therefore I propose this council objects to this application on the grounds that the proposed trading location would be unsafe on the highway.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that proposal? There's a number of seconders. Any other comments? Okay, so I'll take the vote then. All those in favour then please show. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. Oh, so I beg your pardon, so I missed that. Okay. So are those anyone against? An abstention? Abstention, thank you. Right. 10, planning applications. So 10A, work to trees in the conservation area. Comments?
Propose no objection. It's the trees don't have TPOs. It's in a conservation area, and they're only proposing to reduce by 30%. So it's a tidying up exercise.
Okay. Happy with that, everybody? Okay. I'm getting nods of agreement. So next one then is 22 Homecourt Avenue, 2-storey front and side extensions. Comments? Councillor Skilton?
Yeah, it's quite a big it's quite a big change to the actual silhouette of the building. I'm not a planning expert, but it seems to add a 2-storey extension to a bungalow is quite a big development, and I don't know if that's the right description for it. But to me, it looks like they're making a much larger sort of shape on the street, and the other neighbours are all bungalows down there, and I think it will have an impact on the streetscape. I don't know if that is a legitimate grounds to object or comment, but yeah.
So examples of material planning considerations do include the impacts on the appearance of the area. It does include overlooking and privacy, design, appearance, layout of materials. So so that any objection does need to include a material planning consideration. So
I think overall appearance.
So you're proposing that we object on the grounds of design and appearance?
Yeah.
Councillor Thomas?
It's also overdevelopment. It's almost as big as the previous house.
So and so overdevelopment. Okay. So I'm not sure that I'm just checking the. Happy to include that. Yep. So, Councillor Barrett.
Yes, I agree. The footprint of the extension hasn't actually changed too much in terms of the building, but it's gone up significantly. And I think, if I remember rightly, you can't go up by more than a couple of metres. I think is the planning rules. I may be corrected on that, but I think on that basis, I think we should at least check that as part of this. So as part of this, we would object, but we would like to check, please, in relation to the planning rules with regards to height.
Okay, so we're objecting on the grounds of height or of appearance and also the height, but we're going to make sure ask is in line with the planning regulations then, yeah? Happy with that? Okay, all those in favour, please. Okay, thank you. Anyone against? I don't think there's anyone against this time. No abstentions. Next one then, 29 Binder Place, creation of loft conversion with front and rear dormers, erection of a 2-storey side extension. Comments? So I see no objections, subject to neighbours, or
Yeah,
happy?
subject to neighbours, yeah.
Okay, thank you, nods of agreement. Okay, the next one then is planning application outcomes. I can find it. Any comments on this report? Councillor Thomas.
It's nice to see that CBC agreed with us about ASDA and refused the application to extend hours, etc.
Indeed. Good. Anything else, anybody? Okay, so we're noting the report. Thank you very much. Item 12, accounts. Councillor Strawn, did you want to make any comments on this one?
No, I think the accounts are before you. I think if anyone has any observations, perhaps if they raise it outside the meeting tonight. I think it's that we note the report, and if there's anything of concern, then if they can raise it directly with the officers.
Okay, so we're happy to accept the report of the accounts as laid out then. Yep. All those in favour of that, please. Okay, that's everyone. Thank you. Item 13. So this is for information. This is the first item. There is the CB traffic management meeting. This is there's one at Biggleswade element. It's an item to note unless anyone wishes to comment on it. Oh, so we're noting that. Oh, Councillor Strawn.
Yeah, just an observation for the future. Perhaps we could just have the précis relating to the items in respect of Biggleswade only. It'll save a couple of trees.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on to then the 13B red line for members to note the outcomes of the plan appeal hearing for the red line. Anyone wish to comment? So I've got Councillor Knight and Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you. I think this is fantastic news. Here we had a property developer make an application, it was refused, and then they decided to just do what the hell they liked anyway, and appealed, and now they've lost the appeal. I think this goes a long way to putting Central Beds in a strong position should they need to object to future planning applications when property developers, speculators try to take over pubs and convert them to residential to make a fast buck. So I think it goes a long way to making our important community pubs stronger. And I'd like to say a special thank you to Councillor Thomas, who spent a couple of days of his time at the appeal hearing, and I think made some valuable contributions that may have helped to achieve this outcome. So we're now in a situation where the owner of the property, essentially a property speculator, has already made a significant number of modifications to a listed building. And my understanding is they don't have planning permission for that, probably don't have building regulation approval for that, and they certainly don't have change of use to do that. So this is now a matter for the Central Beds enforcement team. I would like to propose that we write to Central Beds enforcement and ask that they do their absolute best to ensure the original structure and materials and fabric of the building is restored as far as possible to the condition it was in prior to the start of the unauthorised work.
Okay. Do I have a second to that proposal? It's a number of people. Anyone else wish to comment? Councillor Strawn?
Yes, I thought it was interesting reading the report, the notice that was taken of our neighbourhood local plan, which I think is actually very significant for us in the future. And when considering planning applications, we need to be taking into account the neighbourhood local plan, because clearly in this case, it seems to have helped influence the inspector and get a result that we were looking for. So I think the work that went into it, which was led by Councillor Russell, appears to be very worthwhile in this case, and it's actually shown the benefit of having the neighbourhood local plan.
Absolutely. Okay. Councillor Barrett?
I agree that we must follow through now on ensuring that this building is returned, but I would also suggest that we also need to not then stop our support, that it then becomes a viable concern as a result. If we do want it to remain as a public house or something similar, we shouldn't just stop at enforcement. We should actually be behind whatever the next stage is for that place.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it will just become a derelict building.
Okay, so proposal to write to enforcement to essentially ensure the building is brought back to where the condition it was prior to any work. Seconded. All those in favour, please show. That is unanimous. Okay, well done. Thank you very much. We've now got a public open session. Anyone, members of the public wishing to speak? Oh, okay. So, in which case, make a resolution that we go into an exempt session. You're happy with that?